folks, let me tell you something. There are days where you sit down in the Attila the Hun Chair, you fire up the Golden EIP Microphone, and the news just delivers. Delivers like a pizza at halftime. And today is one of those days. We have California Democrats, the great state of California, land of sunshine and sanctuary cities, and some of the finest public outdoor restrooms in the Western world. California Democrats voting to protect convicted child sex offenders from being banned from holding public office. I know. Stay with me here. And then we have New York City, the greatest city in the world, they will remind you constantly, where the new mayor, a proud socialist, has cooked up a plan to have the government run grocery stores. Government grocery stores. I am not making this up. I would not have the imagination to make this up. And we have the South Carolina Senate runoff result coming in, and it is a big one. And it tells you everything you need to know about where the Republican Party is right now in the year 2026. Oh, and we lost Dolly Parton yesterday. We'll get to that because she deserves the time. But first, California. I want to dwell here a moment because this one actually made me stop, put down my coffee, look up at the ceiling, and just marvel. Not at the depravity. I've come to expect that. I marvel at the audacity, the sheer brazen sunlit audacity of people who will look you dead in the eye and vote to keep open the door, just a crack, just a little crack, for sex offenders to sit on your child's school board and then go home and sleep soundly. I'm Rick LeBeau. This is Rush Hour, and we are just getting started. All right, my friends, let us set the scene. California, Sacramento, the California State Senate. Republicans in that chamber, and God bless them, there aren't many. They're outnumbered something like the Alamo, but they show up. Republicans put forward what I would describe as the most obvious piece of legislation since Don't Shoot Your Neighbor. The bill said, if you are a convicted sex offender, regardless of what tier you're on in the registry, you may not hold public office. You may not sit on a school board. That's it. That is the whole bill. It did not require 1,000 pages of regulatory framework. It did not need a blue ribbon commission. A child could understand it. Well, gosh, if you hurt children, maybe you shouldn't be in charge of children's schools. Even a child gets that. Most animals get that. California Senate Democrats voted it down. Party line. Every single one of them. Now, I want to be fair. I always want to be fair. The Democrats and our friends in the drive-by media will be happy to explain this to you. The Democrats have a position. Their position is that sex offender registries are complicated, that they are sometimes applied unevenly, and that some people on the lower tiers of the registry were convicted of offenses that are, and I love this word, nuanced. That's the word they reach for, nuanced. You know what's nuanced? Jazz, foreign policy, tax code. A child sex offender sitting on your school board is not nuanced. That is not a puzzle. That doesn't require a philosophy seminar. Here's what I find remarkable. Not surprising. I stopped being surprised by California Democrats sometime around the second Obama term, but remarkable. Republicans in that state have been saying for years, going back decades, the left does not care about your children the way it cares about its own politics. And every time a Republican said that, the drive-by media acted like they had just accused the Pope of robbing a 7-Eleven. Oh, the horror. Oh, the extremism. How dare you suggest that these compassionate, caring, devoted public servants don't have the best interests of your children at heart? They live for your children. They wake up every morning thinking about your children. And then they go vote to keep the door open for sex offenders in school administration. You know what the funniest part is? And I use the word funny loosely here. The funniest part is that the party that will lecture you for 3 hours about safety, about gun safety and car safety and helmet laws and caloric labels on menus and warning labels on everything, that same party cannot manage to pass a bill keeping child sex offenders off school boards. They will ban your gas stove for the safety. They will ban your plastic straw for the safety. But a Tier 3 sex offender on the school board? Let's not be hasty. Let's be nuanced. I want to talk about why this happens, because it does not happen by accident. Nothing the left does happens by accident. I have studied these people. I know the left like I know every square inch of my gloriously magnificent self, not just the back of my hand. And what you are watching here is the left's coalition in action. The left has built what I call the coalition of the oppressed. It is a magnificent political construction. I will give them that much. You take every group that considers itself a victim of something, victims of the police, victims of the economy, victims of history, victims of biology, and you tell all of them that the Republican Party is the enemy. You give them all a common enemy, and in exchange, they vote for you. Every 2 years, like clockwork. The problem, and this is the fatal flaw, and it is fatal, we are watching it happen. The problem is that some of the groups in your coalition want things that are completely incompatible with what other groups want. And at some point, you start making votes that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago because you are so committed to protecting every tentacle of your coalition that you cannot even vote to ban sex offenders from school boards, because somewhere in the legal machinery that makes the sex offender registry work, there is a constituency that feels aggrieved by it. That is where California is. That is what a one-party state looks like after enough time. The Republican Party in California is so weak, so outnumbered, that the Democrats no longer feel the cold air of electoral accountability. They don't have to worry. The machine runs, the coalition holds, and so they make votes like this one, and nothing happens to them. And you know what happens? Real people, parents in California, moms and dads who are not particularly political, who are not watching cable news, they see this vote. They hear about it, and something shifts. Something quiet and important shifts. And 2 years from now, or 4 years from now, they vote differently. Not because some consultant told them to, because they remember. That's the thing about the left's overreach. They always go one step too far. They cannot help themselves. They think the cultural ground they've taken is permanent. It never is. Now, the drive-by media is going to do with this story what it always does with stories that are inconvenient for the Democrats. It is going to either ignore it entirely, or it is going to cover it in a way that makes the Republicans look like the unreasonable ones. Republicans weaponize sex offender registry in cynical political maneuver, something like that. You watch and tell me I'm wrong. Don't doubt me on this, folks. I've seen this movie. I've seen it so many times I could recite the dialogue. The American people, though, and this is why I have always believed in them, why I will always believe in them, the American people have better instincts than the people who claim to represent them. A parent does not need a think tank paper to tell them that sex offenders should not be running school boards. They know that. They knew it before they had children. They knew it when they were children. The question is whether the political system reflects those instincts. And in California, in Sacramento, in August of 2026, the answer is no, not even close. And the people who live there deserve better. They deserve much, much better. All right, folks, the roundup. Rapid fire. Keep up with me. We've got good stuff here. First, New York City, the city that has managed in my lifetime to go from the greatest economic engine in the Western world to a place where the government is now going to open and operate grocery stores. The mayor of New York Zoran Mamdani, a proud democratic socialist, which is a phrase that has always amused me because it's sort of like saying friendly arsonist, has announced a program of taxpayer-funded, government-run grocery stores. And the private grocery industry in New York is not amused. They are threatening to sue any operator who joins this little socialist experiment. Now, I have to pause here because I want to paint you a picture. You've been to the DMV. I know you have. You have stood in that line. You have taken that little number. You have watched the clock, and you have thought to yourself, all of us have thought this, why does everything the government touches turn into this? Now I want you to imagine your grocery store, run by the same organizational genius, government grocery store. The produce section managed by a deputy commissioner of fruit and vegetable affairs. The checkout line operated under a collective bargaining agreement that ensures nobody moves too quickly. The store hours posted but not necessarily honored. Your iceberg lettuce arriving when it arrives. Folks, the Soviet Union tried this. China tried this. Every country that has ever let the government run what markets can run better has had the same result. Empty shelves, long lines, and a black market around the corner doing a brisk business in things you used to be able to just buy. The fact that a sitting American mayor in 2026 is proposing government grocery stores and being taken seriously by anyone, is a testament to how thoroughly some people in this country slept through the 20th century. The private grocers are right to fight this, and the lawsuit threat is the correct move, because you do not let socialism take root in your market quietly. Once the government grocery store opens, it never closes. It hemorrhages money forever. It serves as a monument to a bad idea, and the taxpayers of New York City, who already have enough to worry about, get to fund it indefinitely. Good for the grocers. Stand firm. Don't let them in. Second item, South Carolina Senate runoff. This one came in, and I'll be honest with you, I had a mild amount of suspense about it, because on paper, Representative Ralph Norman had the resume, the experience, the voting record, the name recognition, and he was running against Darlene Graham Nordone, the sister of the late Senator Lindsey Graham, who held that seat for what felt like several geological eras, who had been in politics for about 5 minutes. And she won 53-47 with the Trump endorsement. Now, I know some of my friends in the more traditional wing of the conservative movement are going to say, Rick, this is dangerous. You can't just endorse someone because of family connections and a presidential blessing. And you know what? They have a point worth considering for about 30 seconds, and then you remember what the Trump endorsement actually represents in a Republican primary in 2026. It represents a verdict. It represents the base of this party saying, we know what we believe, we know who is with us, and we will reward loyalty and we will punish apostasy. Norman is a fine conservative. I'm not here to roast the man. But the voters of South Carolina looked at the choice. They saw the Trump endorsement, and they made a decision that is entirely consistent with where this party is. The president's endorsement record is extraordinary. His candidates keep winning. The people who bet against him in primaries keep losing. And at some point, the political analysts in Washington, those wonderful folks in their bow ties and their think tank offices, have to look at the scoreboard. This is not a fluke. This is a political movement that knows what it wants and goes and gets it. Darlene Graham is going to the general election in November. She will almost certainly win in South Carolina, and she will take her brother's seat. And whether that is poetry or politics or both, it happened, and the president's fingerprints are on it. One more. And this one I want to spend just a moment on, because it deserves it. Dolly Parton assumed room temperature yesterday at the age of 80. And I say that with none of my usual levity, because this one is different. I will tell you something. There are very few American figures, very few, who have managed to be beloved by essentially everyone. Not because they were bland, not because they were empty, but because they understood something that a lot of people in show business have forgotten, and that the left has completely abandoned. That your job when you are a performer and an entertainer is not to save your audience. It is not to educate them or reform them or make them feel guilty for who they are. Your job is to make them feel something wonderful. Dolly Parton did that for 60 years. She came from nothing, from a one-room cabin in the Smoky Mountains, one of 12 children, and she became one of the most successful and most beloved artists in the history of American music. She did it on talent alone. She did it with wit and warmth and an absolutely ferocious work ethic and a sense of humor about herself that was completely disarming. And here is the thing about Dolly Parton that is true and worth saying plainly. You cannot make one of her anymore. The pop stars of today look at an audience and they see a congregation to be preached to. They see an opportunity to signal. They see a platform for their opinions on things they know nothing about. And the audience that Dolly had, the audience of regular Americans from every walk of life, that audience knows the difference. They feel it. They don't like being preached at. Nobody does. Dolly Parton never preached at you. She sang to you. She made you feel good. She told you that hard times don't last and that love is real and that it is possible to laugh at yourself without losing your dignity. And she did all of this with a smile that was real and a heart that was even bigger. There was a story circulating yesterday, a clip from a Conan O'Brien appearance years ago, where Dolly recounted pulling a gun from her purse when a man threatened her in New York City, stopped him cold. Only Dolly Parton could make a self-defense story into a charming anecdote. Second Amendment, perfectly accessorized. She will be missed, deeply missed. Not by a faction, not by a base, by the country. My friends, let me close with this. Today, we talked about California Democrats protecting sex offenders from consequences. We talked about a New York socialist who wants the government to run your grocery store. We talked about a Trump-endorsed newcomer beating an experienced incumbent on the strength of a presidential nod. And we said goodbye to an American original. What does all of that tell you? It tells you that we are in a period of genuine choosing. The left is showing you, without embarrassment now, without even the pretense of moderation, exactly what it believes and what it wants to do. No more hiding behind focus group slogans. No more triangulation. They vote to keep sex offenders eligible for school boards. They propose government grocery stores with a straight face. They are telling you who they are. And on our side, something is happening too. The Republican Party is becoming, slowly and sometimes painfully, a party that actually fights, that actually shows up for the culture war, instead of retreating and mumbling about fiscal responsibility while the other side burns the house down. Whether you love the direction or you have reservations about it, you cannot deny that it is a party that is engaged. That is no small thing. The American people remain the most sensible, most decent, most fundamentally practical people on earth. They do not want socialism. They do not want their children in danger. They do not want to be lectured. They want to work, raise their families, keep what they earn, and be left alone by people who think they know better. That is not a complicated constituency to serve, and yet Washington manages to fail at it constantly. My job here in the Attila the Hun Chair behind the Golden EIP Microphone on the Excellence in Podcasting Network, my job is to tell you what you already know, just a little louder than they want me to say it, with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. I'm Rick LeBeau. This has been Rush Hour. Same time tomorrow, if they let us back on.